when it comes to the benefits of the trap bar deadlift, there are lots of things that comes to our mind. The upright posture, the natural symmetry, the neutral grip, and a bunch of other different things. But among these advantages, one of the most underrated and unique perks is the fact that how easily you can adjust the grip relative to your foot placement in order to either emphasize the quads or the hinge pattern of your body. So the most natural position would be to sort of imagine the center line that connects the sleeve of the bar, putting your foot in alignment and making sure that your hands are also halfway across the line, and that would be kind of a hybrid between a squat and a deadlift. So it's almost like you're engaging both, but you're focusing on the quads more. Now, based on one's anthropometry, the most natural position would either be a quad dominant one or a hinge dominant one. And also depending on your natural strengths and weaknesses, your training history, everything else. But the fact that you can very easily fine tune the hand placement relative to your foot placement is something that is very rarely spoken about. So it allows you to adjust the emphasis of the movement, shifting it between a quad dominant lift like a squat or a hinge dominant lift like a conventional deadlift, all by simply tweaking your setup. Now, no other variation, especially if you're using a straight bar, gives you this kind of flexibility. With a barbell deadlift, you're locked into a hinge pattern. With a squat, you're locked into a knee dominant movement that also requires you to balance yourself, so you can't really tweak it besides the change in the bar position, in the sense whether it's a high bar or a low bar. But beyond that, you can't really do much. Even the low bar is a quad dominant movement for most people. Of course, there are some exceptions, but with the trap bar, you can really fine tune it even with absurd leverages. Now, because unlike the deadlift or the squat, the position isn't objectively determined by a rule that doesn't take into consideration the ratios of your limbs. So there are two primary ways of performing the trap bar deadlift. And when I say two ways, I'm really oversimplifying the nuanced, the kind of the continuum aspect of tweaking. So you can emphasize your quads like you would in a front squat. You'll set up with lower hips like a squat position, more forward knee travel, your shins angled forward, and an upright torso. Chest tall, minimum forward lean. It's like you're doing a squat but with the bar on the floor. Now, in a squat, the center of mass of the bar is actually inside your body. Now, the deadlift doesn't really allow you to do that while making it quad dominant. However, in this style, the movement becomes more knee dominant while allowing you to use the natural stability of the deadlift. Now, since the weight is in the floor, the overall center of mass is also lower, which means it requires less of your stabilizers, and you can just focus on the brute strength and explosive aspect of the lift. While making it quad dominant, your glutes and hamstring will play a secondary role. Now, this is fantastic for athletes who needs explosive leg drive, like sprinters, jumpers, football players, or just general athletic performance. Like for me, I've got limb asymmetry. One of my legs are shorter. My right limb is shorter than the left one. And so in order to build squat-like strength without heavy spinal loading or concerning myself with heavy back squats, I can just do the quad dominant trap bar deadlift and build similar strength. Of course, there are minor holes which can be sealed using other accessory movements. The trap bar is uniquely suited for this because the handles are inside your center of mass, allowing you to stay upright without the balance issues you'd face with a barbell. Try this with a straight bar and you'll either fall forward or turn it into a stiff-legged deadlift. But the trap bar is perfectly balanced. Now, for the hinge-dominant deadlift, where you would want to emphasize your posterior chain, glutes, hamstrings, and spinal erectors, You'll set up with higher hips, closer to a conventional deadlift position, less knee bend, more hip hinge, and slightly more forward torso lean. This version turns the trap bar deadlift into something closer to a conventional pull, but with far less shear force on the lower back. The neutral grip and centered load reduces spinal stress while still hammering your glutes and hamstrings. This is ideal for lifters who want the benefits of deadlift without the lumbar strain, or athletes who need powerful hip extension, sprinters, wrestlers, strongman competitors. Now, one of the most unique advantages of doing the hinge dominant trap bar deadlift is that you can actually move the barbell slightly inside your body, and I mean very slightly inside. Now imagine a straight bar and you're doing a conventional deadlift where you can afford to kind of move the straight bar slightly inside your knees. So you're doing a hinge movement while still being able to keep your torso relatively erect. This is advantageous for people who are not the most blessed in terms of leverages, in terms of conventional deadlift, and are often forced to switch to a sumo deadlift. Let's say you're someone who still wants to develop strength in the conventional deadlift stance, but without facing all the risks that comes along with performing the straight bar deadlift. Now keep in mind, I'm not against the conventional deadlift. I quite like it. It's just that I love switching between lifts. The trap bar is so much more natural, and I feel that it has much more carryover to everyday tasks, although this could be controversial, especially for purists. See, most people treat the trap bar deadlift as a single fixed movement, but the ability to shift between these two styles gives you three huge advantages. The number one, auto-regulation based on weaknesses or fatigue. If your quads are lagging and you want to focus on a squat style pull, or say if your posterior chain needs work, you can emphasize the hinge style. Or let's say your lower back is fried from heavy squats or deadlifts, you can shift to a quad focused pull and still train hard. You can still develop that neural efficiency, that explosive power, without hammering your lower back. You see, more often than not, the lower back is the most lagging part in the entire chain, and so one might argue that it's the lower back that most stimulated, and you can easily fatigue it from overdoing it and then run the risk of injury, especially if you're pulling 4 plates, 5 plates, 6 plates. So you can program 2 variations of the trap bar deadlift in order to auto-regulate. Another advantage is you can gain sport-specific strength. Jumpers and sprinters benefits from the quad-dominant version for explosive knee extension. You see, unlike the squat, the trap bar knee-dominant deadlift removes the balancing demands, so you can really focus on that explosive drive part. If you are a powerlifter and you want to, if you are a powerlifter or a grappler, you can use the hinge dominant version for a stronger hip drive. You can use it as an accessory for your main conventional deadlift. And if you're a general lifter, the recreational lifter, you can just cycle between the 2 variations for a much more balanced leg development. And then there's reduced risk of injury. Now, we all know that the trap bar is generally safer than the straight bar for the spine, barring exceptions. So if you have knee issues, if there's some nagging pain, you will find yourself naturally biasing the hinge pattern more than the knee pattern. Or the reverse, if your training history has lots of quad focused movements and your knees are way ahead relative to your hinge. In essence, no other big compound lift gives you this level of adaptability. Now, there are a couple ways you can program it. So next time you step inside that frame, ask yourself, do I want more quads, more hamstrings, or a perfect blend of both? Because unlike any other lift, this one lets you choose. And that's why the trap bar deadlift's most underrated advantage isn't just its back-friendly design, it's the fact that it's 2 lifts in one. Master this and you'll unlock a whole new level of strength and versatility in your training.